Well, 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 what do we have here? Well, we got a 2006 Trailblazer up on the ramps on one side, and we're taking off the fuel tank, or I should say I've already got the fuel tank taken off. Now, if you saw a couple videos back where I had a problem here with this thing kind of starting really hard, we did a fuel pressure check up here, and the gauge, as soon as I crank it up, it would just, and shut the key off, it would go down to zero. So I figured, well, better take the gas tank off and see what's going on, because the people before me said someone put a fuel pump in the fuel tank. And I thought, well, you know, there's probably a problem with it. This thing only has one fuel line coming up right to there. There's a test port, and you got your fuel injectors up there with a rail and a fuel regulator. That is it. There's no return line on this 2006. Before 2006, between 2002 and 2006, they do have a return line, so just so you know. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go up under here and show you that we got the gas tank out. Not too bad to take out. You got a bunch of hoses back there, just quick disconnects you got to disconnect, and you got right here, you got one main fuel line going in, and this other hose is just a evap system. And these two are kind of hard to get off. One of these hoses here, they had a bungee, not a bungee cord, they had a zip tie through here because they broke these little clips. Now you can go to the local parts store and buy clips for these. You can buy a kit and put these clips back in, which I'll show you here in a second. So the first thing I did, I put a couple jacks under the tank, and I do have some other videos on the Trailblazer. Basically it's the same process, except this 06 Trailblazer, a lot of the lines you see back there, well, they're all up here on the 2002 to 2006. There's a few lines back here, but majority of the evap lines are up here. This is all you got to worry about here, just these two lines. And you almost have to drop the tank down to about 4 to 5 inches to get your hands up in here and kind of get that. So just so you know, and you can take little screwdrivers and just kind of pop these clips out. Beware, you're probably going to break them. So you might want to have someone stand by. As you can see back here, do yourself a favor, take out the spare tire, because once your spare tire comes out, there's so much more room to work with back here. Of course, I disconnected the hose to this neck filler, and let's see if I can get you a nice shot here of all of these evap lines right here. You just pop the clips out and they'll slide off. This one here is a pretty big clip. And here's the other one here. This one slides in. Like I said, all these clips were broken on these. And this purge valve thing right here, if you just slide it out of the clip on the side of the tank, I just slide this out, you can just leave this hang. And that's about it. I did unhook this little clip right here. It makes it a little bit easier. Let these hang down on the 2006 is what I'm trying to say. Then lastly, once you get your hoses unhooked and you set this tank down on the ground, and then you come over here, this is the driver's side, of course, you know, I'll get this side up in the air. Once the tank's down on the ground, stick your hand up here and you can unhook this sensor wire right here, and you got your little power clip. Now I thought this was broke, but if you look closely right here, you have to take a little tiny screwdriver and lift this clip up to pull this off. I thought this was broken. It looks like it's broken. Usually there's a big clip here you push on, but not this one. So just be aware. I was getting a little frustrated, but there's the two wires, and that's that. Oh, and by the way, you get your bracket there. Pretty easy to take off. You got two 15mm bolts, and you got a brace that goes across here, which is laying over there. Real easy to take off. Then you can take your tank out. And also, when you're getting ready to drop the tank, I just used a couple of jack stands, kind of prop under it, and make sure your gas, your gas tank is down to at least 4 gallons of gas. Because if you have anything more than 5 gallons of gas in the tank, it's going to be kind of heavy. So drive it until it's almost empty. And there's that brace. Real easy to take off. All right, so there is the gas tank. Not a whole lot has changed, except 2006, they actually have the fuel pump a little farther back. The 2002 to 2006, they actually have it in the center, sort of. But just one pump line here, that's it. And it goes up to the front, and this is where you connect it right here. And here's one of the other connectors that you have to unhook, like I showed you earlier. This is a return. This is just a evap line. This is the main line here that goes up to the front of the engine and supplies it with fuel. Now before we get too far in the video here are some of these clips that you can buy at the local parts store. They're different sizes. like I said, it's almost impossible to get some of these out. Like these little black ones right here. These are the ones that I will be using, and I have some oddball ones here. These are for like, I believe some of the Ford Explorers, but you may have to go and have some of these on standby, just so you know. And speaking of what in the hillbilly, whatever, this is one of the zip ties. They just had it around here. They snaked it around, and they pulled it tight, and that's how they kept this on. You could probably do that in emergency, but I probably wouldn't do this on these high pressure lines. It's probably okay to do it on the evap lines temporarily until you get some clips. Alright, so having said all that, in my last video, 2 videos back, I showed that I had no fuel pressure. As soon as I shut the key off, this gauge would go down to 0. Should not do that. It should at least hold about 45 to about 55 pounds of fuel pressure, and some days this thing would be really hard to start, and other times it started up okay, but I knew there was a problem. So what I did here, I took a gauge. This is basically the same gauge I used before, and I had to take my little piece out, and I just ran this right over this line here, high pressure to the fuel pump, from the fuel pump to the engine, and we're going to do a fuel test here. Now I'm going to take a couple wires here. This is 12 volts, and there's a little bit of fuel in here, not much. And what we're going to do, we're going to cover this up, and there's no really fumes out here or anything to worry about. And what we're going to do, the 2 top terminal wires on this plug is the fuel pump, and the bottom 2 are for the gauge. We're just going to touch these 2, and we're going to let that fuel pump run, and we're going to see how far this builds up pressure. And when I stop, it should hold pressure. But if it goes back down to 0, then I know we got to take this fuel pump out and see what they did. They did replace it. It is kind of shiny, but the pump itself may have slipped out of the seal. I don't know what they did. It's probably a mystery what they did down there, but this is what we're going to do. So let me set the camera up. We'll go ahead and touch these 2 wires and run this fuel pump and see what kind of pressure we get. Alright guys, so here we go. Let's give this thing a test here. See what we get. And it should hold 50 pounds, we'll see. Alright, there's 55. I'm going to stop it. It should hold. Nope. We've got a problem inside that fuel pump. Something is letting that fuel bleed off. That's not what we want to see. Let's do it again. Flip the wires around here real quick. Here we go. Alright, right about there where it should stay. When I stop it, I'm going to stop it in 3, 2, 1. Yep, there's our problem. So these little tests, you can do before you put all this stuff back together to verify your fuel pump is working correctly. So now what we got to do is take this fuel pump out and see if we can see anything. Now I don't have a fuel pump for this. In this 2006, they changed all this. This here is a fuel pump up to 2005. It's a little bit different. I thought I'd have one here, but that's okay. Oh, by the way, here are the 2 return lines off of an older one I was talking about earlier. So let's go ahead and get this off. Oh, and by the way, look, there's another zip tie. Yeah, someone's worked on this before, but the thing is, I never smelt any fuel, so I know we don't have any leaks up here. With that kind of fuel pressure drop off, you would see a lot of fuel and smell it, so it's definitely inside that tank. Alright, so might as well watch me pop this off, I guess. Alright, that wasn't too bad, as I almost took my camera out. And I've already taken a vacuum cleaner, and there's a tag on it. And it says Car Quest, made in HECHO, China. Internal filter strainer. Well, something's not right, so now we gotta get it out. Somehow I Are you kidding me? Well, I'm gonna figure this thing out. I don't see anything. There's the fuel pump right there. How do you... There we go. Are you kidding me? I see. These little ears are holding it right here where my thumb is. These little catches right here. These little things right there. I gotta get them all up through there at the same time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Holy moly. And of course we got fuel still in it. And guys, please, this is fuel. Be very careful. No sparks, no electricity, nothing. So there's that. And so why are you losing fuel pressure? I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna pop that pump out of there. That pump looks like it's the same thing that one is. Let me, hang on guys, let me just check a few things here. Alright, I'm not quite ready to tear it apart, but I had to fix this guy here. Fuel gauge, it wasn't even in here like it should be, so that's back in. But I've already noticed there's something loose in here. Hear that? There's something. Oh, what was that? Huh. Where'd that come from? So obviously we got some problems here. Something fell on the bottom of this. Gee whiz. That's some kind of a, yeah, that's, oh look, that's a plug. I bet you that's our problem. So let's go ahead and tear this thing apart. Maybe we're going to get somewhere after all. Alright guys, so there it is, it's apart. Man, it took a little while to get this thing apart with those little screwdrivers because you got to get these tabs pushed back. But I got it off, and here is where our mystery plug should be, right here. This is actually a housing that keeps the pump primed, but I don't know if that's going to keep it from losing pressure because all your pressure is going to be in your check ball and your pump. But that's okay. I do have another fuel pump here, and for some reason it looks like this is the same, but online they said these pumps were different, but that looks like the same pump to me. But the only issue is getting this top hose here off and getting that on there. I'll have to somehow get that off and get a clamp on there if I decide to use this one, because this is a good fuel pump here. But yeah, this is where that plug goes. So we'll just kind of push it back down in there. It doesn't look like the housing's busted or anything. But we'll put, then the beauty is here, we'll push this back in and we can set this pump housing back in here and we can test it and see if that's will take care of the fuel pressure before we even put all this back on. That's the beauty of it right now. So let me go ahead and tap this back in, and I'll check it over real quick, and we'll put it back in the tank and see if that does anything with the fuel pressure, but I don't think it's going to, but we'll try it. Alright guys, so I got it back in. I didn't even put the housing in or the fuel gauge. The less I have in there, the easier it is to take out. The sock is on the bottom. We've got fuel. And there is the gauge. Let's see what we get. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work, but you never know. I'll zoom in a little bit for you there, best I can. And like I said, 50 is right about straight up and down. So here we go. Let's get some power on it. 3, 2, 1. All right, there's 50. 55. All right, and we'll stop at 3, 2, 1. No. Oh well. Nope. Not going to work. I'll be daggone. 50, 55. It should hold right there. Alright, so much for that. Alright, we'll figure it out. Alright guys, lucky me, I was able to get this hose off. Usually you can't get them off because they're heat shrinked on. I took a screwdriver and kind of started and got it up under there and took the little one and made it just a little stretchy. Then it just popped right off. But we'll put this on with a small clamp. And here is my other pump. You know what? They're exactly the same. Exactly. So, if this doesn't work, then the only thing I can think of is this fuel regulator here. There's a problem with it. It looks okay, but I don't know. But online they said they changed the fuel pump into 2006. Maybe they're just talking about the housing. So we're going to put that in, put a clamp on it, drop it back down the tank, and see if that helps it. All right, so I pulled this black hose clear off because I think what they say the reason it won't fit is because this piece here, this piece sticking up, is a little bit bigger than the one I have here. But I just cut me a regular fuel line hose and put a clamp on it right there and ran another clamp to here. And if I have to, in emergency, I can reuse this. But this here, you know, is a little bit bigger. But everything else hooked up right. The plug's fine and everything else. So we're going to stick this in and see what happens. So we got that one back on. Now let's set the camera up here and see what we get. I don't know. I got a feeling it might be in the fuel regulator. It doesn't make sense, but alright, you can see where it's at. There's 0.50 is right about there. That gauge should come up and stay right about 50. Should not back off whatsoever. So let me get my little connectors here. Here we go. And in 3, I may have to figure out which is polarity here. 1, 2, 3. That came up fast. There's 50, 55. Alright, let's turn it off. 1, 2, 3, and it's off. Well, I'll be daggone. I'll be a bucket full of crickets. Look at that. That's holding. So our problem was the fuel pump. Look at that. It's holding. Oh, wow. I'm excited. That's what the issue was. Bad fuel pump. I'll be daggone. Look at that, it's holding. I'll tell you what, let's wait about 10 minutes and come back and see where we're at. Alright guys, been about 15 minutes and look at that, we're still at 50 PSI. I'll be daggone, that was the whole problem the whole time, that fuel pump. Hey, I'm excited, so all I gotta do now is go back to the parts store and get me a brand new fuel line. I won't put a new one in there, and brand new clamps. We can put this thing back together and put it on the vehicle. And you can see right here where I'm connected, it's not leaking or nothing. Oh, I'm so excited! Hey, let me know where you're watching from right now. Alright guys, after about an hour, it's all back together. Had to go buy some clamps, had to buy a 5/16 new hose. It's all back together. There's my new fuel pump setting in there. And there's the new hose, a new clamp right there, going over to there. And everything's all together. You've got the fuel sending unit on. Took me a while to get all these clips back in on both sides, but it's all in, and the bottom of it is like it should be. The little black siphon tube here is right where it should be also. So what we gotta do now is drop it in there, drop it in the tank. We'll do a quick test, make sure it's gonna hold pressure, put everything back together. So yep, fuel pump got a problem. So there we go. Let's go ahead and get this in the tank. Alright, it's all back in. And make sure if you're going to do a test like I'm doing, make sure you have that clip back in there because this thing will blow off. There's our gauge. See what we get. Hopefully she holds pressure pretty good. I'll zoom in here a little bit. And that should be right about there, about 50 pounds. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better there. Alright, let's do our test. Let's run some power to her and see what we got. It's currently on 0. Alright, there's 50, 55. 60 pounds right there. Now we'll disconnect it. 1, 2, 3. And let's see if she holds. Hey, she's holding. All right. She's at 50. Now it should hold for about 10 minutes, so we'll come back in 10 minutes and see where we're at. All right, guys, been 10 minutes, and look at that. She's right at 50 pounds. Yay! We are fixed. I'm so excited. So we are good there. So all I gotta do now is go ahead and stick this back in, and we'll do one more fuel pressure check at the engine like I did about a week ago. But that's what you want to see. You want to see that fuel pressure hanging up in there in the high numbers. It's still at about 50, and they require it from 46 to 55, I believe, for it to be normal. So, all right, let's get her back together. All right, guys, gas tank's on. I did it by myself, believe it or not. Hooked the fuel line up front. Now, as you can see, we're under the vehicle. This is the back of the gas tank, and there's that piece there that you could just slide off. I think I can get my hand right here. This piece right here, it slides right out of the bracket. Lines for the emissions. Really not much pressure on those, so I put all those together. I don't have any clips, but I'll get some tomorrow, but they'll be okay for tonight. And finally, we got the gas filler neck back there hooked up. And one other important thing here up front, as you can see, we're under the tank again, and this is the front of the tank. Now if I shine the light right there, the one with the yellow tag on it, it's imperative that you get that clip on there, because that is the high pressure line. Don't even attempt to turn that fuel pump on until you do. If you break that clip, you can actually just go to the parts store and get it. Now the one on the left you see there, that's also just a EVAP line system, no pressure on it. I'll have to get a clip for it, but it's pushed in, and we're ready to go ahead and do a pressure test and see if it's holding fuel at the engine like it did not in my other video. So let's go check that out. All right, guys, just like in my last video, I'll put a link right there. We're going to turn the key on, let this pressure build up. When we shut it off, that pressure should hold right about 50, and if it does, we are good to go. So here goes nothing. All right, check that out, guys. She's holding fuel pressure just like she should. Look at that. Yes, I'm so happy. Right at 50. So that took care of our problem. So all we got to do now is go ahead and hook this up, and we'll crank this thing up, and we're good. I'll tell you what, just to verify it, we're going to come back here in about 10 minutes. Let's see where we're at. We're at 55 right now. Let's come back in 10 minutes and see where we're at. All right, guys, 15 minutes later, we're still at 50 pounds. This is what you want to see. So we are good. So now let's go ahead and hook this up, start the vehicle up, and wrap this video up. All right, we got our little clip on there. So let's go hit the starter and start her up. I like it when a plan comes together. Yes. And something else I noticed, seems like it runs a little bit smoother. Now I have a slight miss in number 2, but we'll deal with that a little bit later. But at least for now, when I shut this thing off, it starts up just like that. So let me go shut it off and restart it. Yes, that's the way it's supposed to start. Yay, we're done. All right, guys, it looks like we are done. So if you have any problems with your fuel pump on the 06, maybe this will help you out. Some basic tools, taking that tank off, and a little bit of a fuel pressure tester. You can find out what's going on with your problem. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And until my next video, guys, I'll see you later.